And hello, everybody. Welcome to the Weekday Warriors of Wrestling. But I'm Eric Clancy, is joined as always by Patrick Kelly. Today we got I think two topics to go through. We're going to talk CM Punk because all that fun news blew up recently, and we are going to be talking. We're going to do some WrestleMania rewinds like we always do. Patrick and I just chatting about a random WrestleMania that we select. How you doing, pal? How's it going?
I'm doing great. Busy week, but I'm happy to be here talking with you.
Yeah, and so how many weeks left, by the way?
WrestleMania, I believe 2 weeks?
Oh, no, I meant your child.
Oh, my child. Well, it's due in July. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but first week of July is when
Okay. Okay, so you're 2 months after this. Yeah, for those of you who do, like, I don't know if we've said this on the air. I feel like we
I don't think
have.
so.
Yeah, okay, we haven't then. Yeah, so uh, Patrick's wife and my wife are both pregnant. My this is my second kid. This is Patrick's first kid. Mine is due first weekend of May, the first week of May, and Patrick's is the first week of July. So 2 months apart.
Yeah. Holiday babies.
Yeah.
4th of July and Memorial Day. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, not really Memorial Day because that's like a month away, but I get you. It's a double or nothing, baby. Um, yeah. So let's jump right in. So it was great because I was on the, I was in the thread where this happened. But yesterday, Dave Meltzer responded to someone about Punk not cooperating, and him saying, the reason they did the Moxley match the way they did was because Punk agreed to it and then sent a legal letter. So Punk, so then what happened was Reddit, like somebody on Reddit screenshotted this and posted it on Reddit, which is what mostly the amount of like dirt that comes off the Observer message board is insane and so funny. Or like a Discord chat where they'll like post it and then that's like wrestling news for the rest of the week. It's great. So then that got posted. So I'm sure somebody told Punk about it. So then Punk does an Instagram story and he's like, so he's like, we agreed to the match, and Mox was like, I won't lose to you unless you lose to me, and we got to do this Rocky 3 story. And I thought it sucked, and I've never seen a Rocky movie. And and he's like, and then they wanted me to work hurt. And he's like, I don't put my health above, I don't put any company above my health anymore. So that was what Punk said, which is nuts because earlier in the day, he shared his Instagram on another Instagram story. Social media is dangerous with this guy.
Oh, yeah.
But he says, he's like, I'm reading the Steve Kern book. And, Kern and Coco Beware had a fight. And Lawler pulled him into the office and they squashed it. Fascinating. So the idea being that like Punk's like, we could just squash this, which is hilarious. Because from what we've heard about, there was a meeting with Hangman and Punk around before Double or Nothing to settle things, and that didn't work. And then Punk just kept doing insane things after that. And then eventually we got to the scrum and the fight and yada, yada. So the idea that this is all simple and you could just talk it out with CM Punk seems fucking insane. This is the guy who said, I'll tell everybody in the hallways, come talk to me. Let's fucking go. And then people came to talk to him and then he assaulted them. So
now I want to make it clear. Do we know that he attacked first, or what was the deal there in the what do they call it, the brawl out?
The brawl. Well, I mean that's the fight. I always like the situation being called the Gripe Bomb. I think it's more clever, but I think we know he attacked first. Number one, I can't imagine the Bucks coming in and trying to attack anyone, and basically everybody, even his side, say that he attacked first. Like they said he sensed a fight was coming, so he punched them, because sure.
Okay.
So anyway, so it's like based on what Dax has said recently, which is, oh, hey, I want him back and he wants to come back. So it seems like Punk has been angling to come back, which I gather, here's my guess of the timing of things. I gather that Punk probably when we heard all those buyout, do you remember the buyout talks like after All Out, Patrick, when they're like, oh, Punk wants to be bought out of his contract?
I did hear about that. Yes.
Yeah. So what I think what happened was Punk wanted to be bought out of his contract so he could go to WWE. But I think what's happened is everybody in WWE is like, this guy fucking sucks and I don't want to work with him. And he's like insane and he has all sorts of issues. He's toxic. And then Punk realized he wasn't going to go there. So his really only way in, he can't go to New Japan because they're not going to take him if AEW is like, don't use this guy. So the only real spot for him is AEW. So now he's like trying to backpedal and be like, oh, he could go to Impact. Yes, he could go there. And that's where he might be left. So this is like where we are now, and he's trying. So I think he's trying to come back. And of course, then he has this outburst and accuses the company he's working for of being medically negligent, which, I wouldn't put it past a wrestling promoter to ask somebody to work hurt because they've always done that. But Punk is a known liar. Like he's lied about, he lied about the MRSA infection. He lied about the Buck swinging the door open to hurt his dog, like as though that wouldn't be the first thing we heard about. He's like continually lied about things to like make himself look good or whatever. So maybe he wasn't, like, I don't know. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but he's also like, I don't know, like, shame, fool me once, shame on you. So that's where we are right now. And it sounds like before this happened, Punk was coming in for a return, or there was optimism that would be the case, because they've been talking about using the United Center for All Out, which is a much bigger space. And it seemed to be that's where it was going. They were getting the Elite together, Hangman, Bucks and Kenny and everything. That would be the perfect way to have like a Punk FTR feud type deal. And then this happened.
Dynamite this week. I mean, tell me if you felt this way when you saw the Bucks being carted away in an ambulance. I immediately thought, "Oh my God, Punk is the one that did it," and this is how they're going to bring him back into the story.
Yeah. So and by the way, we can talk about this. That was probably the best Dynamite episode in like 8 months. We can talk about it later, but I thought something like that. And it's just like, I mean, unless this is a work and he's like, he knows that like people will scrutinize like every little thing and it travels through, unless this is a work, God, it's just like a guy that just shoots himself in the foot that just can't shut the fuck up. Apparently now it's been revealed through Sean Ross Sapp that, there is heat between him and Moxley, which, so like now seemingly he has heat with Jericho. Oh yeah, I forgot, in the Instagram story he called Meltzer a liar and he called Jericho a liar and a stooge. So now he's got heat with Omega, the Bucks, Jericho, Moxley, Hangman, like anyone else. Like, is there anyone in the company that doesn't hate this guy? So I mean, to me, and it's just nuts. Like, this whole thing is just insane of how this guy seemingly has no self-awareness of how he is going to be perceived every time he says something. It's amazing to me that he like did the Hangman move, the coward shit thing, and thought that would make him a babyface. Or he did the stuff with he yelled at the guy that was chanting Colt Cabana and thought that would make him a babyface. He did the gripe bomb and thought that would make him a babyface. Everything he's leaked out since to people that he thought that would make him a babyface. It's so fascinating to me that a guy who at one point was like one of the top baby faces in the world, like, has no idea how to get over as a face to an audience, because everything he says is the wrong thing.
It's amazing, and it makes you wonder, like, is Punk okay? Like, is there something going on up there upstairs? Does he need to be checked out or something? Because the way he responds to things and the way he behaves, it's almost like it's hard to fathom, because you think about, okay, you look at somebody like a John Cena, and, you know, as a performer, I think you and I both preferred Punk over Cena, you know, 24/7 pretty much. Mm-hmm. But Cena's like this professional guy that kind of maintains the company image, and he's a good representative for the company. Punk does everything in his power to just piss people off and screw himself over, ultimately. I mean, it's just unreal. I couldn't believe it when that story, I thought it was fake. I was like, there's no way he's that stupid to drop all this. And sure enough, there it is right there.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't think there's any, I think he's an incredibly insecure human being that, like, needs constant validation. And, like, I mean, he did this in WWE. He did this all the time until they stopped calling his bluff. Like, he would constantly be like, I'm upset. And then, like, oh, they'd have to bring him back. They'd have to massage his ego. Like, Shawn would do that too. Like,
Shawn had drugs as an excuse, though.
Yeah. What's Punk's excuse? Yeah. No, but like Punk would do, like, after like WrestleMania 29, he would be like, oh, I'm going home. And they're like, oh, I need you to come back. Okay, I'll come back. And, you know, he just, like, and that's what he said before. That's what he wanted in 2014. He's like, nobody picked up the phone and called me. So he left, but he was like, oh, I can come back. Just like, you know, which honestly, if I was Vince or Triple H, I would just be like they're also bad talent managers, because they kind of need to know what somebody wants. But, like, in this instance, it's another situation where now he's like, well, all this stuff happened, but now I want to come back. So why can't, you know, it's just childish. It's very, like, April Mendez, his wife, must be a saint to deal with a guy like he sounds exhausting. Like, this is a person that is never, like, seemingly has, like, very few friends, turns on people over the smallest shit. Like, he just seems fucking unbearable to be around as a human being. I mean, that said, he makes wrestling TV more interesting. So if Tony, and I don't think Tony has the personnel skills to do this, but if they can find a way to like settle the locker room and have, like, he has to apologize and he has to be contrite. The problem is, I don't think he can do that. I don't think he believes he's done anything wrong. I know the recent Sean Ross Sapp report said that he regrets it and whatever, but, like, I mean, I don't know. It's just nothing he's ever done indicated that he thinks he's done things that are wrong. Just that he's like, oh, you know, like, people were unfair to me, or yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, and if you think about it, I mean, this goes all the way back to, like, his indie days. He would have scuffles with people. Like, he got into a thing with Teddy Hart once.
Teddy Hart.
There's a real meeting of the minds right there. Two great personalities there, Teddy Hart and CM Punk. But yeah, to your point, I mean, it really is a shame, because I think Punk even now is one of the best performers out there, and he's a great performer when the cameras are on, and he can make things more interesting, make things more exciting. But you don't know what you're getting behind the scenes, and it becomes that constant question. It's like, okay, is he worth the headache? And I think after they've been burned after this time, and you see how his WWE run ended, you got to start asking the question. It's like, and, you know, you look at his age too. He got hurt twice. He's, like, in his mid-40s. Is he worth the headache?
Yeah, and I want to, like, people keep saying, they're like, oh, well, he got hurt once in a match, and the other time was in a match, okay? Like, a wrestling entrance is part of a match. If you're, like, jumping and doing a crowd, like, you hit your fucking foot on the guardrail. So, like, that, like, first of all, that's the thing that's going to happen in a match. Second of all, like the entrance, the show, that's part of a wrestling match. Those are things you have to do. I mean, you don't have to jump into the crowd. I get it. But, you know, he did get hurt and then come back and immediately got hurt again. So I know people are like, he worked 20 matches over 8 months and was fine. I'm like, yeah, but then he worked 2 and he wasn't. So like, yeah, I mean, like, it's just a lot. Yeah, it's a lot to process. But this guy, holy shit.
And, guys like Moxley, has heat with him. I don't blame him because Mox was supposed to go on vacation and then all that crap went down and Mox had to pick up the slack.
Well, if you're Moxley and you're like, and Punk goes down, and then you're like, oh, we got to put the title on you until he comes back, and then he does the great bomb. Then they're like, oh, he got injured again. We got to put the title on you again. Like, fucking A, aren't you tired of it? So Mox being like a lot of people said, well, Mox just wanted to win. Like he had leverage because he didn't have a contract. You're fucking damn right. First of all, that's Tony Khan's fault for not signing him to a contract. Second of all, yeah, if you're Mox, you're like, okay, so I'm going to help you through the summer and keep this company afloat. And then I'm just going to fucking lose to this guy who's put over one person in his entire time here. Like, come on. Yeah, it was, by the way, it was a good idea to have Mox go over him once because otherwise there's only one person in the whole company that beat him and the rest of them look stupid. So like, yeah, I would have done that too. Like, yeah. And he legitimately said, I know there's been some conflicting reporting. I understand the fact that Punk was always supposed to win at Double or Nothing, but that doesn't change the fact he did say that he would never put over Hangman after that. So like, there's that, so like you've got a guy who like, I mean, you've got 97 Shawn Michaels level of stability here as your champion. You're like, oh, Jesus Christ. Can I get somebody that can like, not fall apart in front of me?
It's even worse than that. It's 97 Shawn Michaels stability with no Stone Cold waiting in the wings to kind of, it's like, all right, let's just get to the mega hot star. And
yeah, that's it. That's all. You just get him to Mania and you're fine, right? He's working like 2 house shows a month, but this is like, yeah.
This is like WCW having Hulk Hogan saying, that doesn't work for me, brother. But instead of like doing it once a month at pay-per-views or something, he does it like every single week.
I know. I know.
That doesn't work for me, brother.
Yeah, it's nuts. So
the biggest lie that he told, I don't believe for 1 second that he's never seen a Rocket movie.
No, I do. And I think he's a weird fucking person for it. He's somebody searched his Twitter tweets and found out that he's like, there's like 12 tweets of him saying how he hasn't seen a Rocky movie. And he like constantly, he talks about it a lot. It's very odd. It's a weird hill to die on because it's not like Marvel or Star Wars where you can't escape it. It's like it's Rocky, and it's like, I don't know. It's, first of all, it's weird that he's like, it's one of the most pro wrestling movies out there, like in series. So It's weird that he hasn't seen it. And then like, I don't know. And he's like so proud of that. Like that's the Rocky thing is a microcosm of CM Punk. Like if you were to, how do you describe this guy in one sentence to somebody who's never seen him? He's really proud that he's never seen a Rocky movie. That's how I would describe him.
He's contrarian and he's proud of it.
Yeah, well, do you remember the Art of Wrestling podcast? I think it was the second one, the one after all the stuff. He talked about he and Cole Cabana had just seen like Jurassic Park, and it was his first time seeing Jurassic Park. This was 2014. Who the fuck hadn't seen Jurassic Park until 2014? People that were born in 2010? Like, what a weirdo. And he was really proud of himself. He was like, oh, I predicted the T-Rex face turn there. And I'm like, oh boy, what a whiz kid we've got here. Like, grow the fuck up.
Yeah, it's a shame. And, I made this comment a few years ago before he even went to AEW. I was talking to a friend of mine, John, the best man at my wedding. And I said to him, CM Punk is my favorite wrestler of all time that I never want to meet.
Oh, yeah.
I never want to meet him.
Yeah. He seems terrible. Whereas like, remember how nice and cordial Hangman was at that Ring of Honor show we were at for my bachelor party?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He was nice and just sitting there and waving to people, and like Punk would probably be like, ugh. before we get to Mania Rewind, I do want to talk about Dynamite because I forgot about that. And I thought this was the best show they've done since that CM Punk and Moxley show, or maybe Grand Slam. Grand Slam was good. But okay, the point is, this is the best show they've done since like September or August. Okay. And I'll tell you why. They had a story that built through the show without using invisible cameras or like the stupid WWE promo parade where somebody comes out and somebody else comes out and then they're like, we want to have you fight right here tonight. It wasn't that. And it didn't really have anything to do with the main event, like straight up. Like obviously it tied into that, but like it felt like an organic thing. They opened on it, not cold, but they opened on it. So you got a little bit of intrigue to go like who attacked the Bucks. So you're like, interesting. It's like a mystery. Like who's it going to be? I mean, it's probably the Blackpool Combat Club, but maybe we'll see. He had some good character work with Don trying to get Kenny away from the Bucks and Hangman and all of his friends. And you had some great like updates through the show. Like Excalibur's like, we got a text message from Brandon Cutler. And like him and Tony would like talk about it and they would say, well, hey, what's going on here? And they're like, we're getting medical updates. So that made it feel like it was a real organic happening event, as opposed to this is in segment 1. Maybe we'll talk about it next week. Like it felt like it was a real thing that was living and breathing through the show, as opposed to a pro wrestling skit, which was nice. And then of course at the end you had the crazy and then you ended the show on an angle and not a match. And that is such a nicer spot to be in, because the Kenny Vikingo match was great. It was like insane and like nutty, and Vikingo probably impressed me more as a luchador more than anyone since Rey Mysterio Jr. in 1996. But like I always hate when like, okay, you end the show with like a guy celebrating and that's it. Like that's WWE in 2007 with John Cena. It's not interesting to me. So I like that like, oh, Hangman came back, Blackpool Combat Club comes, him and Kenny almost reunite, and then Callis does the thing. I mean, they need to be careful where they take it next week because Kenny has got to have seen the footage, but you can do certain things. Like Callis was like, well, like he's like, I'm not a wrestler. Like it looks like I fell down, but he pushed me really hard when he was helping me up there. Or he's like, I don't okay, I tried to frame him, but I'm trying to keep him away from you. Remember what happened last time? Something like that, But I thought it was a great show. I thought it was one of the best shows they've done in a long time. And like, it was interesting. You see the ratings the next day. Normally for the past like X amount of shows, you've had ratings decline. In this one, obviously first quarter was the highest, but it started to build, and the final quarter I think was like one of the highest with 18 to 49 or something. So that's like, that shows you that method can work. So I thought it was great. I hope there's more shows like that in the future.
Yeah, that was a wonderful breath of fresh air, change of pace. It wasn't just matches the entire night. Like, to your point, they told a story the entire show. And typically, I don't watch Dynamite the night of. I'll watch it. I have it on DVR, and I'll just watch it the next day. But it was blowing up online that the Bucks got attacked on Dynamite. I was like, wait, what happened? So I immediately flipped on the TV to watch Dynamite, and the story got me. And I imagine it got a few other people as well.
And that's the thing. There's been this narrative that since Full Gear, AEW's had great shows. And I disagree. They've had shows with great matches on them, but they haven't had a great show. This was a great show. And I think there's a distinction.
Yep. More like this, please.
Yeah. So let's do a WrestleMania Rewind or two.
All right.
For those of you who have never listened, basically what we do is we select a WrestleMania, and Patrick and I will go through it and chat through it. And, it's just really, it's good-natured wrestling talk. So let's go. What'd you say?
We're all about that here.
Yeah. All right, Patrick, I got one we normally don't do. Normally Patrick and I do like WrestleMania, like 13 and 15, like 1,000 times for whatever. My special randomizer, however, has this time selected WrestleMania 27.
Oh, God.
Do you even remember what the main event with this was?
I do. It was that clown show with John Cena and The Miz and The
There
Rock.
we go. Yeah, and The Rock, he was the host. He was the guest host.
Which has become a recurring role at WrestleMania since then. It's like, we got to have the WrestleMania host. I'm like,
why do you need the host? Does the Super Bowl have a host?
No, I don't get it. I don't understand. Miz is hosting WrestleMania this year. Did you know that?
Is he? No, I didn't.
No, yeah, that's the bit. Like, he's going to be the host of WrestleMania. It's like, I wasn't going to watch WrestleMania, but then I heard Miz was hosting, and I was like, well, hot damn.
I heard he was hosting instead of wrestling on it, so now I want to see it.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm not knocking The Miz. I actually like him, but it's a role that I just don't understand at all.
Yeah. Also, this card is terrible. I'm going through it right now.
Oh, it's one of the worst, I think.
Yeah. So this took place in Atlanta at the Georgia Dome, which is just pissing on WCW's legacy. But we've got. I'm not even going to do the dark matches. So you've got.
I will talk about this one in the dark match. Sheamus and Daniel Bryan. Somebody in that company wanted to do that match every single year, and
they fucking love that match.
I didn't get it. Like, every year there were rumors, even after WrestleMania 30, when Daniel Bryan won the title, it was like, next year it's going to be Sheamus and Daniel Bryan. I'm like, why would it be that again? No one cares.
Yeah. 1 second here. Yeah, it's it's like, so it was here, it was at WrestleMania 20, it was the next year too, right?
Yep, they opened up. That was the 18-second world title match.
Yeah. And then they were going to do it at 30.
Yep.
Which that was the one where he was going to, win the whole deal. Where he did win the whole deal, but they're going to do it there. And then, yeah, like the next year he was going to do it again. They've pitched it 1,000 times. There's like some fetish for Sheamus wrestling Daniel Bryan. I don't understand it.
There's one guy back there working in WWE at the time that kept pitching it, and they just couldn't get it off the ground for whatever reason. But I don't know. I don't feel like we've missed anything.
So I think their idea was probably, let's and I mean, like, it's probably fine that they didn't do it, but like, it was probably like, oh, let's let Daniel Bryan get his revenge on Sheamus from the 18-second match.
Oh dear.
Like that was probably the idea.
And it didn't happen.
Yeah, and then we had Great Khali winning a battle royal, who last eliminated Sheamus. Why is Sheamus wrestling twice on this show?
My understanding, if I recall correctly, the Sheamus Daniel Bryan match ended in a schmaz, and a bunch of people did run-ins, and they just randomly turned it into a battle royal that the Great Khali won.
That is the worst. Hold on, I got to plug in my charger here. Here, while I'm doing that, why don't you talk about the opening match, which is for the World Heavyweight title?
God, Edge defending the World Heavyweight title against the Royal Rumble winner that year. That was the 40-man Rumble, for those of you who aren't aware of that. Alberto Del Rio. If you don't know who that is, good. So at this point, I thought they'd strap the rocket to Alberto's back, and he was going to go over here. He did not. But it turned out he probably should have at this point, because Edge had to retire almost immediately after this.
Which they knew, right?
So what?
They knew. I was just going to say, they knew he was going to retire.
I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know for sure if they knew or not.
It's weird because they're like, because they eventually gave Alberto the title like later that year, but like, why didn't they just do it here? That was weird.
Yeah, and also opening up with the world title, that told me, it's like, okay, the big gold belt is basically just the new Intercontinental title at this point. It's not an important championship.
I mean, you can do that. Like, I mean, so at I don't know the number, but in 2019 when they did Seth and Brock to open up, so like you can do it there, but like it's got to be like, oh, this is for like the feud has to match it, where this didn't. Like, if you put this on in the main event, you'd be like, oh, they're giving confidence to it. But like, if you don't, then you're like, yeah, this is the secondary one.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, we had Cody Rhodes, I believe dashing Cody Rhodes. Or no, he was
He
just
was undashing at this point.
Oh yeah. Oh, he was hideous. Yeah. He beat Rey Mysterio Jr. I don't even remember this match.
You're not missing much. Undashing. Now, Cody is a guy I've always respected. He puts 110% into everything he was ever given, whether it be Stardust, dashing Cody Rhodes, undashing, or what he's currently doing. He gives 110%. But this was a case where they tried to cast him as a psychopath, and it didn't work because he just doesn't naturally fit that kind of role. And this feud didn't work, and the match didn't work.
Next, we had this is fucking great. This is fantastic. Big Show and Kane, who I feel like have wrestled 12,000 WrestleMania matches together.
As tag partners.
I think it's really two, but it feels like a lot, doesn't it?
They had like 3 or 4 separate tag team runs, and a couple of them made it to WrestleMania. Off the top of my head, I can't think of which one. I think 22 was one, but it seemed to be like, oh, we don't know what to do with them. Make them a tag team again.
They're really big. So it's Big Show, Kane, Kofi Kingston, and Santino. In 32 seconds, they defeat the waste product of Nexus, which is the Core. And it's Ezekiel Jackson, who I will always call him by his true name, Big Rick. Heath Slater, Justin Gabriel, and Wade Barrett. Man, Wade Barrett, like 6 months ago, was like main eventing SummerSlam and wrestling for world titles. And here he is, part of the Core.
Yeah, and I think the Core had the tag titles and the IC title at this point. So it really painted the picture as like, man, being a champion doesn't really matter at this point.
Yeah. Then we had the top two active, the number 2 babyface and the number 2 heel on the active side of the roster, Randy Orton and CM Punk. Randy went over, and the fact that CM Punk was in this match and not the main event with John Cena enraged him and caused him to drop the pipe bomb later this year. So I remember this match being pretty good, right?
It was good. Yeah, it was one of the better matches on the show. Probably second best behind the big one, the Undertaker Triple H match. It was pretty good.
Okay, so the next match was Michael Cole and Jack Swagger against Jerry Lawler and with Stone Cold as the referee. And that was, for some reason, 13 minutes and 48 seconds.
And I would like to point out that 13 minutes and 48 seconds, that's only the bell-to-bell time. The entire thing with entrances and all the shenanigans that happened after the bell, this entire thing probably took up like half an hour, maybe more. And this was the most heavily built match on the entire show. When you look at the storyline and the feud between the two announcers, Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler, and their back and forth. So that would take up entire episodes of Raw, by the way. And it all built up to this match, which I'm going to say I consider this to be the absolute worst WrestleMania match of all time. This is my pick.
Is this worse than the Brett Vince one?
Yes. I would say yes. It's a close call. They're both awful, but this one I would say was worse.
Yeah. I mean, this terrible.
One was more insulting, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, I don't even know what to say about it. It was like an old wrestler against a non-wrestler, and for some reason Stone Cold is involved in this. Yeah. And
actually, I'm gonna tie this into the rest of the discussion with WrestleMania 27, because it wasn't so much the matches that made this show bad, although there were plenty of bad matches. Do you remember all the skits that they did in between the matches, where like Pee Wee Herman showed up? And
you know what? I do not. This is like perhaps in my like post when I started watching wrestling, my like least remembered WrestleMania.
That's God, I wish I could be that lucky. But yeah, it was like the entire thing was like a bad episode of Saturday Night Live, where it was just they would do a match and then go to some stupid comedy skit, and all of them were terrible. They did a Rock and Austin face-to-face behind backstage. And I was like, man, remember when that was your WrestleMania main event? Those were cool days. And instead, the entire thing was just a terrible dog and pony show that was just awful. Like it was the entire show was formatted horribly, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah. Next we had probably the best match on the show, even though it was a bit self-indulgent, but these two were a little self-indulgent. That was Undertaker beating Triple H. I think he used the Hell's Gate submission. And the story for this was, because they wanted to do it the next year, was that Triple H beat the Undertaker so badly he couldn't get up. But like Undertaker still won. And this is like made fun of on the Wrestling Isn't Wrestling podcast, or not podcast, a video that Max Landis did where he's like, I won the match. And Triple H is like, yeah, but I got some good shots in. And he's like, that's not how wrestling works. And he's like, mm-hmm. So it's a really good match, and I like it, but it's always so funny that that's the story, that they're like, he lost, but he hit him really hard.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Triple H. He always protects himself in defeat. That's kind of how these matches always go. Yeah, and to your point, yeah, it is self-indulgent to some degree. They gave him like half an hour, but on a show that had so little entertainment and things that were good about it, having this wild brawl of a match that probably went on 10 minutes too long, it's still the best thing on this show.
Then we had John Morrison, Snooki, and Trish Stratus against Dolph Ziggler and Lay Cool. And didn't like John Morrison get in like major trouble for this for some reason?
Yeah, he snubbed Trish Stratus after the match because it was supposed to be Melina in that spot, but they put Trish in there for some reason. And look, Trish is a star, and I'm not usually opposed to them including her, but here it just made no sense. It was like, why are they even putting her in this? This just feels like a waste of her. And because the whole match was centered around showcasing Snooki, who's about as the most D-list celebrity that ever D-listed, in my opinion. I never got the Jersey Shore, but whatever. She was a name back then. And the match was just kind of this pointless filler. And John Morrison thought that his girlfriend at the time should be in there. She wasn't. And he snubbed Trish Stratus afterwards because they were supposed to hug or shake hands or something like that. And he just completely turned his back on her.
I think it's so funny just how like there's certain people you cannot insult in like WWE history and hierarchy. It's like Andre the Giant, The Undertaker, any celebrity, and Trish Stratus. Like they put her, like, I love Trish, she's great, but like they put her on this pedestal, and I like that they're just like, fuck this guy. Can you believe he didn't hug her at the end of this? What a piece of shit.
Yeah, and John Morrison, I don't think he ever had a WrestleMania singles match.
Yes, that's probably, I'm not looking it up because that's insane, but no, I don't think he did. Yeah. I mean, unless he wrestled as a single, because I think he did that triple threat match for the titles, but it was a triple threat singles match at the pandemic one. Mm-hmm. So there was that. That happened, right? Because it was Miz and Morrison.
Yep, you're right. Yeah, that did happen.
Yeah, that was a fever dream. And then we had our main event, which was Miz and John Cena for the title, but really The Rock beating everybody up.
Yeah, that's about it. And of course, they also had to work in the anonymous Raw general manager because that angle was so great. And so WWE was really bad back then.
Wait. What? That happened in this? I thought they revealed him to be Hornswoggle. Wait.
Eventually. What?
So the anonymous GM is involved in this. I do not remember this show at all. It was involved in this match?
Yes, it was at the tail end because remember, it ended on a double count out. And then the laptop blinked off and caused the lights to go on and off because, that's how laptops work when emails are sent. And he announced, or whoever this mysterious GM is, announced that the match would continue under no DQ. No, okay, I'm misstepping. The Rock was going to read the email, but then said, screw that, and he just threw the laptop away, and then he just made it no DQ. There must be a winner. So.
What if the anonymous GM said that it was a DQ? It was like we'll never know what his actual ruling was.
No, we won't. It's one of those mysteries that no one cares about.
So this was the start. This WrestleMania was the start of part-timers for WWE.
Mhm.
It's when like, oh, The Rock's going to come back and wrestle Cena next year. Triple H and Undertaker started to be part-timers essentially. Uh, and they started to bring like people back for matches and stuff and have them go over all the current talent, which is what they did in a lot of these cases. That was that 2011 was when that started.
Yep, and this was after years and years of basically feeding everybody to Cena. So I think they woke up one day and was like, "Oh shit, we don't have anybody. Let's just bring Rock back and let's bring Taker and Triple H and all these other guys." Lesnar eventually became one of those. It just that became the new way of doing things, especially at WrestleMania time.
Because remember, Vince was so for years because like it was a touring business. So he's like, if you can't do the schedule, you can't be a top guy. I mean, that's why like with Hogan, he's like, from a live event standpoint, Hulk Hogan can't get it done. But then he was just like, it's just the TV money now, so fuck it. We can do whatever we want. Which I don't have a problem with part-time wrestlers. It's just like, I think you should be building new stars like that can maybe become those part-timers. But
well, it's kind of like I kept hearing reports that Steve Austin might work this year's WrestleMania, which it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. And
he's not.
He did so well last year. Kevin Owens did a really good job of protecting him last year, but that all came off so well that they're like, oh, they should bring back Austin again. And I'm like, or hear me out, don't do that and try something different, please.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so that was that terrible WrestleMania. Let's go to a different one, and then we'll close out here. Okay, we don't do this one a lot. Everybody loves this one. It's WrestleMania X7 from 2001 in Houston. Most people consider it the greatest WrestleMania. I do not. It's a very good WrestleMania. I should watch it again one of these days, but it's got one of the best main events of a WrestleMania, I would say. But I'm a sucker for a good build, and very few, well, not very few, but these don't have the build you would expect. Let's go through them.
Well, can I start?
Yeah, go. I'm sorry, Patrick. I just threw you under the bus like you were a non-part-time wrestler in WWE.
This WrestleMania, I think it's a very good one. It's close to the top for me, somewhere in the top 5, maybe 3. But I also look back on this one with a little bit of a bittersweetness because to me, this show was like the end of the Monday Night Wars period because ECW was gone, WCW was gone, and this was like the last hurrah of the Attitude Era before things started to go downhill. So to me, this was like the end of that era, and it's a little bittersweet.
It's interesting because if you like because like everybody says, oh, the Attitude Era, but like, what do you mean by the Attitude Era? Because there's like different periods of the Attitude Era, right? If you start in late '96, which is that like in like December when Vince started saying he's got attitude to every single person there, like he like got on a branding kick. You've got guys like Vader and Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart and British Bulldog and things like that, and people like that. And then if you go in the middle, you've got like, you're like in 99 or something, you've got Austin and I mean, you had him there too, but like, I mean, like you had Rock fully formed, you had Test, you had Xbox, blah, 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 blah. And then here in 2001, William Regal's there. He wasn't there for the majority of it. Raven is there. Taz is there. Who else can I grab here? Just Incredible's there. So like the point is like, it's there are these different eras, and this late Attitude Era is very different from the early Attitude Era and even different from the mid or like the prime, whatever you'd like to call it. I think a lot of people have that type of feeling towards this show because it's really what it was. So let's go into the show. Our opening match was for the Intercontinental title. It's Chris Jericho defending against William Regal. I had hoped that this was going to be a return to form for Intercontinental title. Well, I say that, I say that, and then I'm thinking about it, and there's like hardly any good Intercontinental title builds because I'm thinking of The Rock and Shamrock, which is like a 5-month feud that like ends at Mania and kind of continues, but like, it ends at Mania. But like 97's is like nothing because it's just Sultan and Rock. 99's is fucked up because of Vince Russo, although the build for Shamrock and Gunn would have been good. 2000 was just like kind of a weird mishmash between Jericho. So I was hoping they were going to do something for this, but this was like, like Jericho won it and Regal was doing like his power of the punch, but I don't think this started till like February. So it's kind of a short thing. I mean, they did like the stuff with like the tea and everything. But and it's a good match. It's a good, nice 7-minute match. And it's a great way to open the show. I just wish like a star of Jericho's level, who within a year would be the world champion, would have had a more detailed and longer story to come into this. And once again, this isn't like I don't like this match, I don't like the show. I'm just saying like here are some knocks on it as I tell you why I don't think it's my favorite WrestleMania.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat with this match. It was for something that was kind of thrown together in February. I think it's a good match. Like you said, it's a good opener, nice, hard hitting, well wrestled match between the two guys, and they did the most with what they had. In the amount of time they had to build it, I mean, people were invested in that story with Jericho peeing in the tea and everything. People still remember to this day. But yeah, it was just a nice, solid match. But it's not what anybody would consider a WrestleMania classic.
So next up, we had Taz and the APA against Right to Censor, and this is like 4 minutes. It's pretty much what it should be, which is RTC just getting killed.
I miss matches like this.
What'd you say?
I miss matches like this.
Yeah, I love a short, good match where it's just over and it's fun and you see the guys and it's done. So yeah, this is fine. It was a nice breakup between your high energy opener and like kind of your crazy hardcore match that's going to come next, which was Kane beating Raven and Big Show for the hardcore title. This was another one that had like kind of no build or story. It's just like they wanted the hardcore title, and this was like post the 24/7 stuff, but also it was still kind of active. It's so funny to see like Raven, who like never did anything much in WWE, in there with Kane, who did a lot, and Big Show, who a year ago was in the main event, and then he got taken off TV. It's just, this is a weird, like, people in different spots looking at each other match.
Yeah, it's such a weird array of talent, but it's one of those indicators, because this match was a lot of fun. I thought it was probably
yeah.
Whatever it's worth, the best hardcore title match in WrestleMania history, whatever. Well, let that speak for itself. But Raven had potential and could have been really good for them. And for whatever reason, like Vince never saw it in him, and they just never did anything substantial with him.
Yeah, totally. But you're right, it was fun, the golf court stuff, the finish. Like, it's a fun match. Next, we have another match, which has a few weeks of build, but that's about it. It's Eddie going for the European title against Test. This was marred because it could have been a good match, but then Test's foot got stuck in the ropes and it brings everything to a standstill. It also felt like such... WWE used to like handle their stars with care back in the day. Like they, and then I think it got to a point where there was too many, so they didn't know what to do. But like, for instance, like if you won like the WWF title, you would never you would never like win the Intercontinental title after that. Like I know Pedro did it, but that was a new thing to establish it. And this year, like they eventually Triple H is going to win it after he had been a champion. But like Eddie was like, I felt they brought him up too quickly for the Intercontinental title, which they did in the fall. But then they took it off of him, and now he's back for the European title. So I felt like it was a drop for him, and it wasn't elevating the title. And I just like, and then the match wasn't very good because of that mistake. So like, I don't know. This thing's just kind of there.
It's kind of random, and I'm looking at it now, and I just, hindsight being 2020, maybe they should have done Eddie and Jericho and Test and Regal for the European title. Maybe that's the way it should have gone.
Yeah,
Regal's the guy that you associate with the European title because he's British, and maybe that could have, that would have worked fine, okay enough. And Jericho and Eddie probably would have been a much better match for the Intercontinental title.
Yeah, I actually I think if they had just started the Regal Jericho storyline earlier, it would have been better, but they just didn't do that. I think yeah, like Test and Regal could have been like in Jericho and Eddie, we know they can have a good match. I just wonder what that story would have been. But yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of things they could have done. Here's another one. Chris Benoit and Kurt Angle had a match, and everybody talks about how great this match is. This match was like signed like 2 weeks before the show. And the whole thing, which I always think is such a loser's like errand, is like Benoit saying like, or Angle's like, I don't have an opponent for the show. And then Benoit's like, I'm gonna wrestle you. And they're like, okay. And I'm like, oh my God. It's just like the lack of like forethought for this thing. It's this kind of stuff that like I'm with Patrick. This is probably my like top 3 or 4 WrestleManias, but like it's this kind of stuff where I'm like, I'm not going to consider this an all-time great show where that's your story for Angle and Benoit.
Yeah, and I think what happened here is that Angle was the champion and he didn't lose the belt to Rock until February. And we all knew it was going to be Austin Rock, even, as far back as like when Austin came back. I think we all kind of figured maybe Triple H, Austin Rock in a triple threat, but we all figured it would be Austin and Rock. And Angle was just the guy holding the belt until one of them could win it back. And he didn't lose it until February. So that kind of left him out on an island where he also had to be kind of the heel working with both Austin and Rock while they built up their match for WrestleMania. And I think they just got to a point where it was like, oh shit, we don't have anything for Angle. And it's like, oh shit, we don't have anything for Benoit. So here you go.
Which, by the way, this is like the start of 2 years in a row where he doesn't have anything, because the next year he gets that stupid match with Kane.
Oh, and you know what? I just thought of something. Going back to Jericho and Eddie, the storyline, China betrayed Jericho to go up with Eddie and do the Latino Heat thing the year before. And that could have been Jericho wanting revenge.
Yep, no, that
there you go.
Works better than Eddie and Test for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Next, we had a match that was like 2 seconds long. It kind of was what exactly it needed to be, which is China beating Ivory. It was like China had like broken her neck or something at the Royal Rumble against Ivory. And she was coming back and she was going to be a hero and she beat her. But then like, I think she only had like a month and a half of stuff after this before she was released. So, it's kind of like the end of China's time too.
Yeah, this was it's funny. Ivory, to my knowledge, is the only woman that's ever defeated China in a match. That's an interesting little thing on her career. But yeah, I thought the storyline here was fantastic. I thought all that was great, and the match itself was exactly what it needed to be to pay it off. Right to Censor had pretty much run its course by this point. And yeah, no, I thought this came off really well for what it was. And again, 2 minutes 30 seconds, didn't waste too much time.
So the next match,
okay to just get to the point.
Yeah, agreed. The next match is fantastic. It's Shane versus Vince, and it's Foley's the referee. Linda's comatose. Trish Stratus and Stephanie are out there. It's like total gaga, and
it's the Benny Hill show in a wrestling ring.
Yeah. It's like it's fantastic. It's so much fun. It's like insane. Shane does the coast to coast and immediately like nerfs Rob Van Dam at like his ability. Not that Rob isn't a great athlete, it's just like, oh, Shane's doing this now. Yeah, this match is so great. Like Linda's standing up when she wasn't comatose and kicking Vince in the balls is like great. There's so much stuff. I mean, this is a great match.
That is just pure pro wrestling magic. We can talk about big high spots or big moves and all that other stuff, but when you can get people so invested that they pop for Linda McMahon, of all people, standing up out of her chair and kicking her husband in the balls, you did something right. This was a perfect example of the heel getting his comeuppance. I thought this match was wonderful. You can't
say when you talk about high spots when this match had a fucking coast to coast in it, when like nobody had done that back then. But I get what you're saying.
No, well, okay, it has those spots, and Shane also did an announce table spot, but to me, the most memorable spot of the match is Linda McMahon standing up. So there you go.
Speaking of high spots, up next is the final, to my knowledge. Well, no, I think there was one on like SmackDown, but nobody gives a shit. TLC match for the tag titles. Edge and Christian, Dudley Boys and Hardy Boys. I mean, we all know these matches were insane. And like super huge spot fest that drove a ton of business and probably shortened careers and got Jeff addicted more to painkillers and whatever. But this is my favorite is SummerSlam, actually. So this is like probably my second favorite. I would go like, I know the WrestleMania one was technically a ladder match, the first one, but I would go SummerSlam, this, and then the WrestleMania one.
I'm going to be, this is my controversial take. I would go SummerSlam number 1, then WrestleMania 2000, and then this one.
Okay.
I think this one is good. I also think it's overrated to holy hell. The one thing that this match had going for it that was kind of cool was that each team now had a corner person. So Lita was out there, Spike Dudley was out there, Rhino was out there.
Yes.
That added a little bit of a different element to it that the other matches didn't have. But speaking personally, by this point, I was like, I've seen them do the tables and the ladders and the chairs. I wish they had done something with them to kind of raise the stakes even more. It's like, all right, we've seen what they can do in the ladder match environment. Let's see what these 6 can do in Hell in a Cell or something insane like that. Like, I wish they'd done something different.
Here's a match. Each team gets a gun and you have to kill the other person.
Yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, Russo might have booked that.
Yeah, he definitely would have. All right. So next up is the Gimmick Battle Royal, which is Iron Sheik wins and last eliminates Hillbilly Jim, which I think somebody makes the joke. Heenan makes the joke that he's like, it's going to be WrestleMania like 30. It's going to be like it either just happened or it's about to happen.
48. He said 38.
38. Okay. Yeah. So we had that a few years ago, but this was fun. It was what it was supposed to be. I mean, you just had Edge and Christian. You're about to have Undertaker and Triple H. You kind of need like some silliness.
Yeah, no, this was great. It was one of the best filler matches in Mania history because it's just all about, hey, look at all these weird characters we've had over the years that, just throw them all out there. And I popped for so many of these guys watching it. Back then, I popped for Slaughter, I popped for Doink the Clown, and even the Gobbledygooker. It's like, oh my God, this thing's insane. The biggest pop of the entire night for me, though, was when Mean Gene and Bobby Heenan came out because they were like the voices of WWF or some of the voices of WWF when I was a kid and first getting into it. So to have them back at WrestleMania, that was very special for me.
That was great, and it just made me a little sad that we didn't get to hear them anymore because it was so cool in 2001 hearing Heenan and Okerlund on a WWF show. I wish they could have done something with that more than just this one show, but c'est la vie. I did think it was funny that they had like they you've got like Duke Droese and the Goon and Gobbledygooker and Brother Love and but then it was just like, then they had like Earthquake and Sergeant Slaughter, who were like kind of big deals. And also like Jim Cornette, who's like
not a wrestler.
He's not a wrestler and he's not like a major gimmick or anything. So it's just like, I don't know. And Michael Hayes, like, I don't know. Some of the choices were strange. I mean, I know why they picked them because they were backstage and they had them, but it was funny to me.
Yeah. But still, like, really fun match.
Yeah. All right. So then we had Undertaker and Triple H, which I think is the worst of their triple threat match of their WrestleMania trilogy, even though they didn't reference this one forever.
Is it the worst? The best one is the Hell in a Cell. I think we both agree on that.
Yeah. And then do you think the No Holds Barred is better than this?
No, I think I like this one a little bit more.
Okay. All right.
I think one of the things that stands out to me about this one is that this match was, if it wasn't the first time they referenced it, it was one of the first times where they started to make kind of a big deal about Undertaker's streak, where they
this is it.
Throwaway lines here. And when Triple H hit him with the sledgehammer out of the last ride, I was like, oh God, the streak's over. And then, of course, Undertaker, true to form, came back and won it. And that started that WrestleMania tradition where you think it's going to end and then it doesn't. And then they did it for so long that nobody thought it would ever end. And then Lesnar just did it out of nowhere.
Yeah, then he did, and we were just like, what? Yeah. No, it was a good match. I would have liked to have not seen the crash pad for the choke slam in the crowd, but what are you going to do?
And then they kind of ruined it.
Yeah. And then lastly, we have Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. No disqualification match for the WWF title. Austin wins. Excuse me. with, I mean, it's not even illegal because it's like no DQ, but Vince gives him a chair and Austin beats him to death with a chair and then pins him. This is the best Steve Austin Rock match there ever was. I don't think anyone will dispute that. It's not like a hot take or anything, right?
No, it's an excellent match. I think if it wasn't for the heel turn at the end, I would probably consider it to be the greatest WrestleMania main event, maybe even the greatest match. But the heel turn at the end sours it a little bit because at first I was like, oh, okay, let's see where they go with this. And then I saw where they went with it. I'm like, I really wish they didn't turn Austin heel here. In a perfect world, again, hindsight being 2020, WCW has just been purchased. Austin wins the title in Texas, and then the show ends with some WCW guys, coming into the ring and beating the crap out of both of them and kicking off the invasion.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been the ending we all would have wanted, but didn't happen.
I'm trying to think because you make an interesting point, like, oh, this would be like the greatest main event in history, if not for the heel turn. And I'm trying to think of the other ones that would be up there. I feel like you'd put like the ones that you could consider would be like Hogan and Andre, Hogan and Savage, Hogan and Warrior, Bret and Shawn, Triple H, Benoit and Shawn.
Yep. Cena and Triple H at 22.
Of course. The Undertaker and Shawn streak match, yeah. The Daniel Bryan triple threat.
Yep.
And I think that's it. So I think I think even with the heel turn, you can make the case for this one. But I think you're right in saying that without the heel turn, it definitely is.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's interesting to go through because it's not like there's been like perfect WrestleMania main events, There's always like something where you're like, that wasn't. It's not like you go through like Tokyo Dome shows and you're like, oh, these are all nearly great, But because you've got like fucking, I don't know, you've got things that like fall flat all the time.
Especially in the era where the shows just got longer and longer and longer. By the time the main event comes around, I'm just like, please stop this. I don't care.
Holy shit. Listen to some of these. It's like Brock and Roman, Undertaker and Roman, Triple H and Roman. These Roman ones are really bad, by the way.
Oh God. It was a bad from like 32 to 35. It was really bad, I think. No, 35 is the women's one, but even that one was like
that had the fucked up finish, yeah.
It fucked up finish, and the match didn't even start until midnight. And by that point, I just felt like I was being held hostage.
Yeah, and then the pandemic one you can't count. Sasha and Bianca was a good one. Roman, Edge, and Daniel Bryan was fine. I mean, it's just like Owens and Austin was like fine for what it was, and Brock and Roman was like you're like hoping it's going to be like I don't know. I thought it was good. It was like not as it wasn't to me what it should have been.
The best match those two had was at SummerSlam last year with the fucking tractor, and
that was great. That was great.
That one was awesome.
It's that one and the one Seth comes in.
Yeah,
those are the two I think that are like really great. Yeah. Okay. We are running out of time. So we're going to pack up here, but everybody, thank you for listening. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, all that stupid stuff that you do on social media and YouTube. But for Mr. Patrick Kelly and myself, Mr. Eric Clancy, we are
signing off.